to another Thoughts by Jay Brown video. I'm planning on doing this more as a live stream going forward until things settle down a bit, but I'm getting kind of bored of not putting out any content anywhere and trying to find the motivation. So rather than hitting topical discussions per se with a deep dive that I just can't functionally do right now, we're going to go back to kind of my old school coverage, which is, This Week in U.S. Politics style of covering the news. But instead of just relying on like local news sources here in Washington State and all that, I'm going to go with a service that I pay for, that I use specifically for this channel, and that is Ground.news. And they're not sponsoring this video. I have no affiliation with them other than the fact that I pay them money to have access. I do not have their highest rated plan. I have their mid-tier plan, which is fine for me. It works perfectly. And I just wanted to kind of go over some things that I might find interesting on their site today. So today we're going to be discussing, we'll start off with kind of a popular topic here, which is the Colombia protester Mahmoud Khalil freed from immigration detention. And as you can see here, that it is a predominantly center-sourced topic with 128 center, 27 leading right, 75 leading left, and then 330 total. You can see the breakdown of the bias distribution. And, as we can go through, we can see, this is how the left is reporting the headlines. This is how the center is doing it. This is how the left is doing it. And we'll try to stick to center as much as possible, but I do from time to time, we'll go over like the blind spot function and how the left and the right report things differently. And you can see by the AI generation here, and that's what this is AI generation. And we can even go to the bias comparison. But we'll start, again, like I said, with the center. Mahmoud Khalil, a Palestinian activist, was freed on Friday from a federal immigration detention center in Louisiana following a judge's decision. Khalid was taken into custody in early March in Manhattan due to his involvement in pro-Palestinian protests amid the Trump administration efforts to suppress campus activism, which I think is a big no-no, but, that's a topic for another time. District Judge Michael Farbier, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. I will try, but Farbiers, yeah, we'll go with that. Ruled Khalil must be freed, noting that he was not a flight risk, posed no danger, and was being denied free speech and due process. Khalil was held in the detention center for 104 days and was required to relinquish his passport. He criticized the Trump administration for their efforts to strip immigrants of their dignity, while his wife expressed a sense of relief after his release. Now let's go. Khalil now is free to travel within the U.S. and is expected to reunite with his wife and newborn son in New York. Yada, yada. So ABC News has AOC commenting on the release of him. DN, I have no clue who that is. I'm going to assume this is Singapore's. But we'll go here and we'll go to the Associated Press and see what they have to say. Okay, in Jena, Louisiana, Palestinian activist Mahmoud Khalil was released Friday from the Federal Immigration Detention Center, freed after 104 days by a judge's ruling after becoming a symbol of President Donald Trump's clampdown on campus protests. The former Columbia University graduate student left a federal facility in Louisiana on Friday. He is expected to head to New York to reunite with his U.S. citizen wife and infant son born while Khalil was detained. Justice prevailed, but it was very long overdue, end quote, he said outside the facility in a remote part of Louisiana. Quote, this should not have taken 3 months, end quote. The Trump administration is seeking to deport Khalil over his role in pro-Palestinian protests. He was detained on March 8th in his apartment building in Manhattan. And okay, so that, as we can see here, Khalil, who is a Palestinian activist, who is a person who was speaking out against, not just the Trump administration, but, U.S. policy in general, is being detained. Now, if he is a citizen, whether he's, a natural citizen born here, blah, 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 if he's a dual citizenship because one parent is a U.S. citizen, the other one's Palestinian, he's a green card, naturalized citizen, whatever. He's entitled to his rights to protest and to have his free speech. And I think that protesting is a fundamental free speech right. I don't care what anybody else says. It is a founding principle. Now, if he is not an actual citizen of the U.S. and is here on a visa, then you have the argument that he's not entitled to those same protections. I think that there should be some protection if you're here in the U.S., regardless of whether you're here as a guest or not. You should have the ability to criticize our government. Everybody should have the right to criticize our government. We don't go into foreign nations to take out people who criticize us like the British want to do to U.S. citizens. A hyperbolic quote, I think, from a Met police chief that doesn't understand, the concept of free speech. But, we should be as a whole, not policing people because they protest. Now, if they do something violent or engage in violent rhetoric that is to incite, that is entirely different. I wholeheartedly agree that somebody should be jailed on that. This is why things like Brandenburg v. Ohio are the law of the land, and it's kind of an important thing that we don't call for the imminent harm and death and violations of other people's rights like that. So I really don't want to focus too much on the top news stories or these things. Other people will cover them, and as I get more back in the flow of how I want to cover things, we'll get to how things are going to work. So locally, I have things like the Washington State's higher capital gains tax drives businesses away, or will it? Governor wants to agencies to look for deeper cuts. Yada, yada. Not really interested in these, not interested in this. But I do kind of want to take a look at some of the blind spot things. 0% of left sources are talking about this, and it's only 11 sources, so I'm not like too worried about the skew on this because it is what it is. Chicago schools facing enrollment crisis with 150 buildings half empty. Chicago public schools had about 325,000 students enrolling this year, having lost 70,000 students over the past decade, according to reports. The city spends approximately $18,700 per student, with Frederick Douglass Academy High School costing $93,000 per student for its 28 students. Under-enrolled high schools in Chicago are linked to lower graduation and college enrollment rates, as noted in the report. Predominantly covered by, New York Post, World News, Fox News, DNYUZ, Fox News, The Gateway Pundit, The American Thinker, Savage Nation. So it's not, and the one mixed factually center, it's, yeah. If I want to see ownership, I have to upgrade, but I don't really care about ownership right now. And you can see, yeah. So we'll go to the center source here. World News, and it again, it is mixed factually according to Ground.news. So pay attention. Originally published by British Parliament, takes First steps towards decriminalizing. Okay, that makes no sense. Okay. Yeah. We're going to go to, I guess we're going to go to the New York Post because I just want to go to the story by the New York Post. All right. Let's see. A new report shows declining enrollment in Chicago, leaving about 150 of its schools half empty. The report is authored by Chalkbeat and ProPublica that found 47 schools are operating at least one-third capacity, leading to high costs and limited course offerings. Chicago Public Schools roughly had 325,000. The district's officials project that three school years from now, there could be as few as 300,000, or in a best case scenario, as many as 334,000 students. Those estimates are based in part by the city's sharply falling birth rates. Citywide, from 2011 to 2021, the birth rate dropped more than 43%. Wow. While the city faces enrollment struggles, the city spends about $18,700 per student. And some schools are double or triple that number. The report said one school that enrolls 28 students costs $93,000 per student. DuSable High School, which had declining enrollment, costs almost $50,000 per student, according to the report. And DuSable is among 47 schools operating at at least one-third capacity. And so, as you can see here, this is something that the city officials and members of society should be concerned about. Now, we're not going to just focus on a right-wing story. We're going to go back and cover a left-wing story. 12 with 4 left-leaning and 5 center. Seattle Times, Raw Story, University of Washington, Northwest Public Broadcasting, the Columbian. Yeah, you get the point. Washington cherry growers are struggling to find pickers. Washington cherry growers face a severe labor shortage during the June to August harvest season in 2025, limiting their ability to pick and ship fruit on time. This shortage stems from fears among migrant workers caused by shifting immigration enforcement policies under the Trump administration and social media reports of raids despite recent official assurances. Farms in eastern Washington compete over a small labor pool, while rising picker wages and big orchards acquire smaller ones, squeezing local producers who cannot raise retail prices due to fixed retailer demands. This, is definitely one of the concerns about the immigration enforcement put on by the Trump administration. I know plenty of people are going to be like, well, if they're here illegally, it's like this enforcement is not just affecting those that are here illegally. It is affecting those that rely on legitimate legal workers. But if the legal workers are here being detained, or at least suspected and being detained and then released later, that interferes with them doing their job that they came here for. So this is one of the few things that really has been keeping me from talking about the broader political spectrum lately of the Trump administration, MAGA versus non-MAGA versus Democrats, And I feel that this is a topic that we should be really considering how do I want to put this? A better enforcement policy by the administration than just if you suspect that they are here illegally, you detain them. You have to be able to go in and verify their working visas and things like that. This shouldn't be too hard for the administration to do. That's just my opinion. You don't have to take it as fact or anything. The News Tribune, that's the Tacoma newspaper. Let's see if I can get a free look into their thing because I'm not paying for it. Um, oh, yay. Somebody read the article. Workers begin harvesting red and yellow Washington cherries at the start of the month, but growers are dealing with the tighter than expected labor market. Cherry harvests depend on migrant workers who follow the crop from California to Washington and Oregon and other Northwest states. Experts say there are several reasons why there are fewer workers at this point in the season. Cherry harvest happened earlier in California, and the crop is looking significantly smaller than last year, so there won't be much overlap between California and Northwest cherry seasons. Some workers are still wrapping the cherry season up in California, and it may take up to 2 weeks before they arrive in Washington. Undocumented farm workers are also fearful about immigration enforcement. Well, they should be. If they're here illegally and undocumented, then they need to, get documented. That's the problem with the system. If you're undocumented, you need to be sent back and apply for, legal documentation to work here. There have been rumors of workplace raids and arrests by immigration and customs enforcement officials. Capital Press reports that Enrique Gastelum, CEO of the Worker and Farm Labor Association, said that rumors are apparently contributing to labor shortages in Washington as cherry harvests begin. Other workers and their families may be delayed leaving California because they are attending a family member's high school graduation. It's unclear how many workers are affected in all. Grower Sean, wow, what did I say saying Shane? Grower Sean Gay runs Finley Cherries, a medium-sized tree fruit operation with cherry orchards in Kennewick, Pasco, and Benton City. Since 1997, the farm has been producing cherries, apples, and wine grapes. Gay said that there's been a slow influx of workers coming from California in the last 2 weeks, with the number expected to peak this week and next week. He hires on average 50 workers a year, including some H-2A guest workers. Gay told the Tri-City Herald that cherry harvest relies heavily on migrant workers plus domestic workers who live in the region. Some of the workers at Finley Cherries have worked for Gay since the farm started operating over 25 years ago. They'll be busy for the coming weeks, and the fresh Northwest cherry crops is expected to be about 10% larger than compared to last year. That's a good thing, unless we don't pick them all. In addition to labor shortages, Washington tree fruit growers continue facing other financial challenges. Gay lost money last year on tree fruit overall because of the high costs and expenses, including minimum wage and overtime payments, farm equipment, and chemical supplies. Well, that's the price of doing business. About 70 to 80% of Northwest cherries are shipped across the U.S. Gay said that Finley Cherries fruit is sent to a warehouse where the cherries are sorted, graded, packed, and shipped and sold at grocery stores around the country. Again, this one, though, I'm sorry, but, you have to pay for your workers. Gay doesn't have control on the price of once cherry hits warehouses. So in November, Gay will finally learn of his expenses for the year, if his expenses for the year are covered. John Devaney, president of the Washington State Tree Fruit Association, told the Herald earlier this week that while produce costs continue to rise for shoppers, growers are bringing in less money. We have a lot of factors going against us, said Gay. And cherry season expected to run through early August. Anyways, yeah, so these simple like little views into blind spot is what I really enjoy about Ground News. I can look to see for the left, these are blind spots that the left is not talking about at all. Latest polling says if an election was held tomorrow, Reform UK would win a majority. I don't know enough about UK politics, but I highly doubt that. Wrestler Star wears an Abolish ICE t-shirt to the ring because, that would really rile up the right. Turkey says Israel leading the Middle East into total disaster. We already discussed this one. Shasti Conrad wins open DNC vice chair position after hog fallout. Starbucks will further align its menu with a MA8. Okay, what? Make America healthy again. Make America healthy again. Okay. But these are also ones that are, blind spots for the right. German military identifies Russia as an existential threat in new strategy paper. We discussed that one. Attack on Belfast Islamic Center during evening prayers investigated as a hate crime. I mean, that's fair. Israel-backed group seeks at least 30 million US from the US for aid distribution. But as it goes on, and you can select your your topics and everything from military, Israeli politics general, immigration, the parties here in the US. There's a whole host of things that you can actually, talk about. I mean, World Cup's trending. Baseball's trending. Well, I mean, duh. But I think that going over stories, briefly is going to help me get back into wanting to read and do the things that I need to do for this channel, for the topics that I want to cover. These are in no way meant to be a deep dive into topics or deep dive into, whatever you want to call this. This is just a surface level reading of my opinion of these stories from me that I will cover. If I find something that's intriguing, I might do a deep dive, and it may include the clip from this video, or if I start doing these as live streams again. So yeah, we're just gonna plug along and figure this out. And as I make videos going forward, we'll take care of it. So, if you have an idea for a video that you would like me to do, and also I forgot international blind spot. We can see specifically for international stuff. Anyways, I'm going to maybe do a Ground News video by itself, kind of going over the features that I have available to me, going over all the things that I want to talk about with Ground News, and maybe someday Ground News will sponsor me. I'm not holding out hope for that. I'm not a big channel, and while I want to become a big channel, it takes more work than drive than I've put into this channel so far. So we will see, and we will figure it out later. So with that, just again, this is a brief overview of some stories. Hope you enjoyed it, and eventually I will get back to doing videos, probably car vlogs, Viva Frey style, but I will, we'll get to there. So, all right. Thank you and peace. Have a great week. See you later.